There's a sound the forest makes when something impossible is moving through it. Heavy, deliberate, and wrong. I didn't believe that until the night it walked straight through our campsite and didn't care that we saw it. I've spent most of my life outdoors. Camping in the northern forests of my country wasn't just a hobby. It was practically a ritual. I knew the creaks of trees, the howl of distant wind tunnels, and even the strange animal calls that echoed at night. But until that night, I had never heard footsteps. Not the soft scuttle of a deer, not the padded thump of a fox, but footsteps, heavy, human-like, slow, and intentional. This happened in the summer of 2022, when my cousin Amir and I decided to camp deep within the Pine Ridge Forest, a place isolated enough that even Google Maps wouldn't track hiking routes inside it. Our goal was simple: disconnect from the city, unwind, and take some drone shots for a short travel video. We reached the camp location just before sunset and set up our tent near a stream. Tall pines enclosed us in every direction. The air smelled like wet soil and warm bark. Everything felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. We built a fire, cooked, joked, and eventually laid back to watch the sky fade into darkness. But around midnight, something happened that changed what I believed was possible. I was the first to hear it. A whistle. Not a melody. Not a random wind note. A deliberate, slow whistle drifting through the trees, as though someone was trying to mimic a tune they never learned. Amir, I whispered, nudging him. You hear that? He sat up instantly. He'd been half asleep, but the sound shook him awake. Someone else camping out here, he muttered. It didn't sound like campers. It sounded close. Too close. The whistle came again, this time longer, louder, and unmistakably human. But we both knew. We were at least 15 kilometers from the nearest trail. Maybe a lost hiker? I offered. Amir didn't answer, because what followed wasn't something a lost hiker would do. The whistle repeated, faster this time, almost impatient. Like whoever, or whatever, it was, wanted a response. We grabbed our flashlights and scanned the woods. The beams cut through the trees but revealed nothing except thick trunks and shadows. The whistle stopped, and then the footsteps started. Slow, deliberate, heavy, crunch, crunch, crunch. Each step sounded like someone weighing far more than a normal human. The ground trembled faintly, almost like the soil itself disliked the weight pressing into it. Amir whispered, it's circling us. He was right. We heard the steps shift around our campsite, moving left, then right, then behind the tent. Who's there? Amir yelled, trying to sound confident. No answer, just breathing. Loud, slow breathing. Too deep for a normal person. The fire dimmed, flickered, and almost went out. A wave of cold air swept over us, colder than the night temperature should have allowed. What do we do? Amir whispered. Stay still, I said. Do not leave the tent, because the thing walking around us didn't sound panicked or lost. It sounded like it knew exactly who we were and exactly what it was doing. Hours passed, or minutes, I'm not even sure anymore. The footsteps stopped. The breathing stopped. The forest returned to its unnatural silence. Not even crickets clicked. At some point, exhaustion pulled us into a light, anxious sleep. But around 3 a.m., something jolted me awake. A shadow stood at the tree line. Tall, thin, wrongly proportioned. Its height almost reached the lowest branches of the trees, at least 8 feet. Its arms hung unnaturally long. It didn't move. It didn't even sway. It just watched. Amir, I whispered shakily. Wake up. He looked at my flashlight, pointed, and froze. Then it did something I'll never forget. It raised its hand, slowly, and pointed at us. Not waving, not threatening, pointing, as if counting us, as if claiming us. My heart hammered so fast I thought I'd pass out. What the hell is that? Amir whispered, trembling so badly the flashlight beam shook. The figure didn't answer, didn't blink, didn't breathe, but the forest did. All at once, the trees around us rustled violently, though no wind blew. Leaves shivered, branches bent. The shadow lowered its arm. Then, without sound, it stepped back and vanished. Not walked away, not faded, vanished, like the darkness swallowed it. We packed the moment the sky showed the faintest hint of gray. We didn't speak. We didn't eat. We didn't even look at each other. We just packed. But as we were taking down the tent, Amir whispered, Bro, look at this. He pointed at the ground. Footprints. Huge footprints, deep, oval, almost human, but far too long. They circled our campsite perfectly. But the strangest part wasn't the size. It was the distance between each step. The strides were almost 2 meters apart. No human could walk like that. No animal walked on 2 legs that heavily. Amir crouched down and whispered. It came from the river. We followed the tracks to the edge of the stream. But they stopped. Completely. Not crossed the water. Not turned back. Stopped. At the waterline. Like it vanished into thin air. We started the long trek back to civilization. For hours, we didn't hear or see anything strange. But just as we neared the end of the forest, the whistle came again. Light. Short. Familiar. The same whistle from a night before. But this time it sounded farther away. Almost playful. Amir grabbed my arm. Don't turn around. Don't look. We walked faster. The whistle followed. Closer. Closer. Until finally, it stopped. I made the mistake of turning around. And I swear to God, far between the trees, a tall figure stood, watching, still, silent. But it didn't follow. It just lifted its arm again and pointed, right at me, just me, as if saying, I remember you. It's been 2 years. I haven't slept in a tent since. Not even in my backyard. Because what I saw wasn't human. It wasn't a hiker. It wasn't an animal. It was something older. Something that walks without sound when it wants to. Something that can appear and disappear without warning. Something that marks you. Some nights, when I'm lying in bed, I swear I hear it again. A whistle. Soft. Slow. Patient. Like it's reminding me. The forest never forgets. And neither does the thing that walked through a campsite. I never believed in mimicry creatures, doppelgangers, skinwalkers, or whatever name different cultures gave them. I grew up in a busy city. The closest thing to wildlife I ever saw were stray cats knocking over trash cans at night. So when Zahir invited me on a 3-day camping trip deep inside the Harrow Pines Reserve, I went in with the confidence of someone who had watched too many nature vlogs and thought he could handle anything. Looking back now, I realize confidence is just another word for not knowing how dark the world really is. We left early in the morning, drove for 5 hours, then hiked another 8. By the time we reached the clearing where we planned to set up camp, the sun was already melting behind a line of tall, black pines. The forest around us felt strangely thick, like it was holding its breath, listening, waiting. Bro, it's perfect, Zahir said excitedly, dropping his bag. No trails, no people, pure nature. Yeah, I replied, trying to hide the uneasiness creeping up my spine. Just us. We set up the tent, boiled some instant noodles, and sat near a small fire. The first night felt normal, peaceful even. The trees swayed gently. Crickets chirped in long, winding patterns, and the fire crackled in a comforting rhythm. Around midnight, we both crawled into the tent. I slept surprisingly well, until sometime around 3 a.m., when a sound woke me up. A voice. Zahir's voice. Farhan. I sat up instantly. He was asleep beside me. The voice came again, this time from outside the tent, farther away. Farhan. It sounded exactly like him. Same pitch, same tone, same sleepy breathiness. But Zahir had not moved. He was still lying on his back, snoring lightly. I froze. The voice whispered a third time. Farhan, come here. A chill ran down my spine, so fast I nearly vomited. Every instinct in my body screamed, do not answer. Do not move. Do not go outside. I nudged Zahir gently. Bro, wake up. Someone's out there. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. What? Who? Before I could answer, the voice called out again. Zahir. This time, it came from the opposite direction. Zahir shot upright. What the hell? Who's messing around? It sounds like you, I whispered. He stared at me, confused. Then the realization hit him too. His expression shifted from groggy irritation to pure, focused fear. Stay inside, he whispered. But the forest wasn't done. A third voice called out. This one farther away, but still unbelievably familiar. It was my voice this time. Zahir, come quick. He looked at me. I looked at him, and that's when we both knew. There were at least 3 somethings out there, and they knew our names. Zahir whispered, we're not answering it. We're not going anywhere. I nodded, but fear made my body vibrate. Outside, the forest fell silent. No insects, no wind, no crackling fire, nothing. Then, a branch snapped. Another, a slow dragging sound, like something large was pulling itself between the trees. And then a whisper, right beside the tent fabric. Farhan. I slapped my hand over my mouth so I wouldn't scream. Zahir held his breath too. Something pressed against the tent wall. Long fingers, or maybe claws, dragging slowly across the fabric. Scratch, scratch. It circled us twice, then stopped. Another whisper, quieter now, almost amused. You're awake. Zahir mouthed a prayer. I mouthed another. We stayed frozen until dawn. No sleep, no movement, no sound except our own trembling breaths. When the sunlight finally hit, we stepped outside cautiously. Nothing looked disturbed, but a set of prints surrounded our tent. Not footprints, not paw prints, something in between. Long, narrow, two-toed, each over a foot long. Deep impressions like whatever made them was heavy. Zahir crouched down, inspecting them. These aren't animal tracks. No human foot looks like that, I whispered. He forced a smile. Maybe it was a prank. Who would prank us? We were in the middle of nowhere. He didn't reply. We ate breakfast in uneasy silence, then decided to stay aware. We still had 2 days left, but going back early would mean losing the trail and getting lost deeper inside. So we agreed. No wandering alone. No exploring. No answering voices. By afternoon, things felt almost normal again. We hiked a little, took some photos, cooked lunch. I began convincing myself that maybe exhaustion had combined with imagination to create the whole thing. Night 2 would prove me very wrong. We stayed up later this time, keeping the fire lit longer. Neither of us wanted a repeat of the voices. Midnight passed quietly. 1 a.m. passed. Then 2 a.m. I was just beginning to relax when the wind suddenly cut off, like someone flipped a switch. The fire stopped crackling. The insects stopped chirping. Even the leaves stopped rustling. Everything froze. Zahir whispered, not again. It came from the left side of the clearing. Farhan, my own voice, but twisted, drawn out. Wrong. Then, from behind us. Zahir, come help me. His voice. Lower. Almost croaking. We stood with our backs to each other, scanning the tree line with our flashlights. It's trying to lure us away from the fire, Zahir said. What? I whispered. I don't want to find out. But the forest wanted us to. Because soon, the voices multiplied. Dozens of them. My voice. His voice. Whispering from every direction. Farhan. Zahir. Come. We see you. We're waiting. I pointed the flashlight at a tree and froze. A figure stood there. Tall. Thin. Almost human-shaped, but with arms too long, legs bent at the wrong angles, and a face that wasn't face. Just smooth, pale skin pulled tight over bone. It didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Then it opened a slit in its face, like a mouth stretching from ear to ear. Farhan. But it didn't use its own voice. It used mine. Zahir grabbed my arm. Back inside the tent. Now. We ran. The thing didn't chase, but the whispering followed us all the way inside. We zipped the tent shut and huddled inside with our knives and flashlights. For hours, voices circled us. Sometimes whispering. Sometimes laughing. Sometimes screaming our names with impossible volume. Something tapped the tent. Something pulled at it. Something walked around us in long, slow steps, too slow to be normal. At one point, I could hear myself crying outside. Let me in, please let me in. Hearing my own voice begging broke something in me. Zahir shook his head. It's not you. It's not real. But it sounded real. Too real. We didn't sleep at all. When the sun finally rose, the voices stopped instantly, like someone cut the power. The forest went back to its normal morning chorus. As if nothing had happened. We packed everything in record speed. Neither of us said it out loud, but we both knew. We weren't staying another night. We weren't surviving another night. Zahir grabbed the map. The trail should be east. If we start now, we'll reach the ridge by afternoon. We headed east, or what we thought was east, because after 2 hours of hiking, we reached our camp. The exact same camp. Our tent, our fire pit, our gear, same place, same clearing. That's not possible, Zahir whispered. We walked in a straight line. No, we didn't, I said. The forest is messing with us. He punched a tree in frustration. I'm not dying out here, the forest responded. A voice echoed through the trees, not mimicking us this time, but speaking in its own haunting, broken tone. Don't leave. We froze. Another voice followed. My voice. You're going the wrong way. Then another. Zahir's voice. Stay with us. We ran. I should start by saying this. I wasn't supposed to survive that night. Not because of the storm, not because of the forest, and not even because I was alone. I wasn't supposed to survive because something was waiting for me, sitting in an old abandoned shack like a predator that already knew my name. And I swear, even now, long after it happened, I still hear it tapping on my window at night. I went camping alone for the first time in early September. I'm not usually the outdoorsy type, but work had been tearing me apart. Late shifts, angry customers, a supervisor who micromanaged me to hell. I needed a break. I needed silence. I needed to breathe. So I picked a spot way up in the Pine Ridge Forest, where the nearest town was 30 minutes away and cell service was a myth. The trail wasn't popular, but it wasn't officially closed either. Perfect for someone looking for peace. Or so I thought. The first 2 hours of hiking were normal. Birds chirping, wind brushing the treetops, the scent of pine everywhere. I felt good, better than I had in months. Then I found the first sign that things weren't right. A tree, maybe 40 feet tall, was snapped in half like a matchstick, split so clean it looked almost carved. I stopped, stared at it, and tried to convince myself it was just storm damage. But the sky had been clear for weeks. Still, I pushed on. My campsite wasn't far from Small Creek. I pitched my tent, ate a sandwich, and tried to relax. For a while it worked. The sound of flowing water soothed me. But as evening settled, the forest changed. The wind died. The insects went quiet. The air felt heavy, like the moment before you're about to be yelled at. Something was wrong. I kept telling myself it was just me being paranoid, but deep down I knew something else was out there. Watching, waiting. Right before sunset, I went looking for extra firewood. I walked about 10 minutes from my tent when I noticed something through the trees, something that didn't belong. A structure. Small, crooked, half-rotted. A shack. It looked like it had been abandoned for decades. The wood was gray and splintered, the roof sagging. One of the windows was broken, jagged like teeth. Here's the thing, though. According to everything I'd read about the area, there shouldn't have been any buildings out here. But the strangest part? Smoke. A thin ribbon of smoke leaked from a hole in the roof. Someone was inside. Or something. A warning bell screamed inside my mind, telling me to turn around. To go back. To pretend I never saw the shack. But I'm the kind of idiot who investigates horror movie situations because it's probably nothing. So I stepped closer. As I approached, the smoke vanished. Like it had never been there. The air warmed suddenly, like I'd walked into a pocket of heat. Then I saw the door. There were scratch marks all over it. Long, deep, uneven grooves. Some were old and faded. Some were fresh. And some dripped. Not with blood. At least, not red blood. It was black. Thick. Like old ink. My instinct finally kicked in. I decided to back away slowly. But then I heard it. From inside. Tap. 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 Soft. Rhythmic. Like knuckles gently knocking on wood. I froze. The tapping continued, slow and deliberate. As if whatever was doing it knew I was standing outside. Then a faint voice drifted through the wood. A whisper. A whisper that said my name. Not shouted. Not called. Not mistaken. Whispered. Like breath against my ear. I ran. I didn't look back. Didn't stop. Didn't breathe. My legs carried me faster than they ever had. By the time I reached my tent, my lungs felt like they were lined with fire. I zipped the tent shut and sat inside, trembling. The forest remained silent. But my heart didn't. When darkness settled, the fear settled with it. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me. That the whisper hadn't been a hallucination. That the tapping wasn't my imagination. I kept the lantern on, hoping the light would ground me. But then I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. Not on the tent. Not from the trees. From the creek. Like something was rhythmically hitting the rocks with a stick. I ignored it. Then it grew louder. Tap, 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 tap. Closer. Coming toward the tent. I gripped my pocket knife. Useless, flimsy, the kind they sell in gas stations. But it felt better than nothing. The tapping stopped. Silence. Then, right beside my tent wall, something exhaled. A slow, wet, rattled breath. I pressed my hand over my mouth, terrified that even breathing would alert it. Another exhale. This one lower. Closer. Right behind my head. My lantern flickered. Dimmed. Went out. Darkness swallowed me whole. I don't know how long I sat there. Seconds, minutes, hours, before I finally heard footsteps. Not human footsteps. They were too irregular. Too heavy. Too wrong. Each step landed with a soft squelch, like something was being dragged beneath it. The footsteps circled my tent once. Twice. 3 times. Then they stopped at the entrance. I heard the zipper twitch. Just slightly. Just enough to make me choke on my own breath. But it didn't open. Instead, it whispered again. My name. Slow. Drawn out. Hungry. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. And then, silence. No footsteps. No breathing. No whisper. Just the forest slowly waking back up. Crickets chirping. Wind drifting through branches. It was gone. For now. I didn't sleep. At sunrise, I made the dumbest decision of my entire life. I went back. Not because I wanted to. Because I needed to. I needed proof. Needed to know that what I heard wasn't just isolation playing tricks on my brain. I followed the path back to the shack. But when I reached the clearing, it wasn't there. The shack was gone. Vanished. No foundation. No broken window. No rotted wood. As if it had never existed. Instead, the ground was torn up. Huge claw marks had shredded the earth in deep trenches. Mud and roots were scattered everywhere. Something had been here. Something massive, and something angry. I took one step forward and felt something crunch beneath my boot. I looked down. A bone. Small. Human-shaped. A finger. I staggered back, nearly falling. A swarm of flies rose from a pile of disturbed dirt nearby. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The soil was churned up from something dragging through it. Dragging hard. Like something had been pulled underground while clawing at the surface. And carved into the tree, closest to the missing shack, was a message. One word. A single word that made my stomach turn to ice. Welcome. The scratches were deep. Fresh. Dripping that same thick black fluid. I ran again. This time I didn't stop until I reached my campsite. Except, my tent was gone. Not collapsed. Not blown over. Gone. As if someone had picked it up and walked away with it. My backpack was shredded open. My food was scattered. My clothes were hanging in strips from branches overhead. And carved into the ground where my tent had been. Stay. I felt something warm trickle down my back. For a moment I thought I was bleeding. But when I brushed my hand over it, it wasn't blood. It was dirt. Fresh dirt. Like something had touched me. Grabbed me. From behind. I spun around. Nothing there. But the forest felt smaller now. Tighter. Like it was folding in around me. I didn't bother packing up. I didn't gather anything. I sprinted toward the trail, desperate to get out. But the trail wasn't there. It had changed. Branches blocked the path. Trees leaned in unnatural angles. The forest seemed rearranged.